Well, good morning, good afternoon. This is Scott over at Ready Squirrel. Like and subscribe, show us some love. Today we're going to cover what type of knife is best for survival. This is not a knife, best knife list like get X knife or Z knife. This is more of how to look at the profile of the knife, and there's going to be some disagreement on some of this stuff, but this is what I feel is the best type of knife, quote unquote, for a survival situation. What type of knife is best for survival? If you depend on one knife to survive, it must be a jack of all trades, both versatile and practical. One knife is all you have, so it's got to fill every role. A survival knife is a personal choice. None of this stuff is set in stone. You're going to hear a million different opinions on which knife is best, but if you follow these guidelines below, or at least most of them, you'll pick a knife that will do you well in a survival situation. The best type of knife for survival, 11 characteristics. Full tang. The tang is part of the knife blank in the handle. The strongest full tangs are a continuous piece of metal from the knife's tip to the heel. You want the tang to be full width of the handle. A partial tang has thinner metal that may not be the full length of the handle, or it may be welded onto the bottom, or to the blade rather. Both characteristics make the knife weaker. A survival knife should have a full tang because it provides strength when twisting or prying with a knife. Knife strength is important when using the knife for heavy-duty tasks like batoning wood and shelter building. You want a fixed blade knife, not a pocket knife. This isn't really an EDC knife. This is more of a bug-out bag survival knife. So again, you want fixed blade. So the blade is basically fixed when it's open. It's not a folding knife. So it doesn't fold, but instead slides into a sheath of some type. Unlike a folding knife, there are no moving parts to break. Folding knives aren't built to take the abuse of being smacked with a piece of wood, a mallet, or being used to pry or create leverage. And those are all things you're probably going to need to do in a survival situation. Blade length, 4 3/4 to 6 inches. The optimum blade length for a survival knife is between 4 3/4 and 6 inches. Go smaller than 4 3/4 and you'll have difficulty splitting wood and building shelters. Go bigger than 6 inches and detailed tasks will be more difficult. Knife blades that are larger than 6 inches are heavy, they're more cumbersome. And you're more likely to carry a knife that is lightweight and comfortable to wear on your body than you are one that you don't like and is uncomfortable. Number 4, blade thickness, 3/16 to 1/4 inch. If you want the perfect combination of weight and utility, choose a survival knife with a blade that is between 3/16 and 1/4 inch thick. A thick blade has the weight and strength needed for use in a survival situation. Thinner blades will flex and aren't necessarily strong enough to handle the rigors of survival usage. The thinner the blade, the weaker it is. Thin blades perform better when slicing with a knife, but it's not worth giving up a thicker blade's strength. Your survival knife should have a spine that's ground at 90 degrees. A straight back knife is superior for striking a ferro rod to light a fire, for scraping bark and small sticks, for kindling, and for batoning wood. Avoid double-edged blades. They limit what you can do with a survival knife in the field. Activities such as batoning and creating feather sticks for fire starting can't be done with a double-edged blade. I shouldn't say can't be done, but it makes it more dangerous and a little bit more difficult to do so. Blade profile, that's how the blade's sharpened. I suggest a Scandinavian blade. For specific purposes, there are better blade profiles, but I think when it comes to survival, the Scandinavian blade stands out, or the Scandinavian profile stands out. The Scandinavian grind, also known as the V grind, is the best grind profile for working with wood. It performs well skinning small game, animals, and fish, and the Scandinavian grind is the easiest to sharpen in the field. The bevel's easy to see. It's easy to get the angles right. Finally, it takes a really sharp edge for very little effort. Some of the other grinds, like the convex, have a higher learning curve when it comes to keeping the profile. and they're harder to establish. I say leave this knife grind, the convex grind, to the gurus. The last thing you want to focus on in a survival situation is your knife grind. You want something that's quick and easy and you can do in the field. Again, a Scandinavian profile is an aggressive woodcutter. The geometry of the blade is perfect for working with wood, and you can go super thin on the edge of the blade if you need a sharp edge. One drawback to the Scandinavian grind is that it will chip more easily than some of the other edge grinds, so you got to use care. You're looking for a lightweight knife for survival. The optimum survival knife weight should be between 12 ounces or less. The lighter the better. In a survival situation, you will be carrying a lot of gear. You want to minimize weight, including your survival knife. 4 characteristics that affect a survival knife's weight: length of the blade, thickness of the blade, the handle type, full or partial tang. Choosing the right survival knife is a balancing act. To get the best knife, you may have to compromise on some of these things. For blade steel, I suggest 1095 carbon steel. It's, I think, the best steel for a survival knife. It's the easiest to sharpen in the field. It takes a razor edge. It's inexpensive. And just don't put your carbon blade away wet. Wipe it off in the grass or on a pant leg. How can I keep carbon steel from rusting in the field? Well, first I'd say, why do you want to do that? Who cares? But if you want to keep it from rusting in the field, the drawback of carbon steel is that it's not corrosion resistant. So consider carrying a Ziploc bag with an oil rag to maintain the blade, or you can use 000 steel wool that seconds as a fire tinder. Other options: rendered animal fat, chapstick to coat the blade, or you can also use stream sand or beach sand to polish. If you're working in a marine environment or around saltwater, consider a stainless steel knife or a coated carbon blade. Just know that they're harder to sharpen. If your carbon blade gets wet, wipe it dry. Don't put your knife in a wet sheath. Knives that are used tend to stay in good condition, and stored knives tend to rust. Rust isn't going to affect the performance of your blade. It has been used for hundreds of years. Imagine a French trapper skinning beaver. He probably is using carbon steel on a Hudson blade. 9. Knife tip spear point. The spear point knife is used to puncture fur or skin when dressing game or animals or fish, to dress wood for bow drilling and for fire starting, and for prying or picking in small places. Number 10. Handle type wood. I prefer wood. I've actually got a hand knife here that's not, it's one in the arsenal, but you can actually see this. One of the things I don't like about man-made or synthetic blades is they get dirty and they're hard to clean. I don't know, that might be nitpicking. I just like wood. I like the way it looks and I like the way it feels in my hand. If you want synthetic, go for it. So, in my opinion, the best handle for survival knife is natural wood. It's beautiful. It feels good in the hand. It's been used on for knife and sword handles for thousands of years. It's tried and tested in the field. Number 11, the knife you have. So I have all these rules, but then I wanted to talk about breaking them because I do on several occasions. This is actually a knife that I'm really fond of. It's inexpensive. It's actually the Maracniv, the Mora. It's the best survival knife. The best survival knife, you like to use it and you carry it with you wherever you go. So what I like about this, it's too thin for prying and anything like that, so you'd have to consider actually making your tools for pounding and hammering and prying. But it's lightweight. It's a super comfortable knife to carry, and it takes a super sharp edge. So the best survival knife, a knife that isn't optimal but that you really like using, it might be the best choice. You like the way it feels, how it sharpens, and you can afford it. Well, that's a big one. You can afford it. Some of these survival knives get really expensive. A knife you love using is a knife you will keep on you and learn to use. As an example, one of my favorite knives is the Maracniv Mora. The Mora Bushcraft Black breaks a lot of my rules. It has a blade that's too thin, but it's super easy to use. The handle isn't wood, but a rubberized plastic feels good in my hand. It isn't full tang blade, so it isn't the strongest. In the nutshell, the Mora is not the best knife to depend on in a survival situation, but I like the Mora because it feels good, keeps a good edge, and it's super lightweight at 8.1 ounces, so it's under that 12 ounces. I know going in that I won't be pounding in stakes or prying up rocks with the Mora. I will carry the necessary tools to do the job, and it's the knife I can afford, which isn't necessarily true. I do have some other knives, but I do not have a $500 or $1,000 survival knife. That I can tell you. 13 uses for a survival knife. It's been suggested that you can use a survival knife for tasks like pounding and prying, but I suggest that you avoid this kind of activity. Instead, use your knife to make a tool from wood or natural materials. Avoid the possibility of breaking your knife when you can. 13 uses for a survival knife. There's probably more than this, but these are the general ones. Skinning and debarking wood, small game and fish, batoning or splitting wood for shelters or fire making, cutting or slicing for food preparation, carving for bushcraft items like cooking and eating implements, tent or tarp stakes, or making animal traps. You can use it for food preparation, carving tools for digging, shelter building, or to make things you need. Use it for fire starting, splitting, feathering, and shaving wood. Light prying to find grubs or crawdads under rocks. Better to use your knife to make tools for this purpose. Digging, again, I would carve a stick for this purpose. I wouldn't use my knife. Split plant fibers for rope and small line making. Carve traps, spears, or walking sticks. Cutting green saplings. Beaver cutting is used to process large pieces of wood into smaller pieces. Conclusion, if you don't know how to use a knife in a survival situation, it doesn't matter how awesome your knife is. A survival knife allows you to make 1,001 tools for hunting, camping, cooking, and shelter building. The things you can do with a knife are almost limitless. Learn knife skills, and you have a much better chance of making it through a survival situation. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. This is Scott with Ready Squirrel. Check us out at ReadySquirrel.com. Like and subscribe, and show us some love. Take care of you and yours, and I'll see you next time.